so. Go ahead and introduce yourself, just your name and title.
My name is Andrew Salas, and I'm the tribal chair, or now the chief of the Gabrielino Band of Mission Indians, Kizh Nation. I took the position of my father, who is or was our chief and spiritual leader of the Gabrielino Band of Mission Indians. I, through my father, descend from the village of Siba or Savagna, which is known or historically known as La Misión Vieja, the old Spanish or the old mission location, San Gabriel Mission location in Whittier Narrows, California. I would like to also introduce that I am the son also of Virginia Murieta. They are both not here with us today. They are deceased, but spiritually they are with us today. So that's who I am. Thank you. The Kizh are the foundation, the indigenous people of the Los Angeles Basin. We are the lineal descendants of those very individual or those very indigenous people of the Los Angeles Basin. Well, the range by mileage, it's gonna be hard for me to tell you, but I'm gonna give you a little idea of how large our ancestral territory was. Our ancestral territory goes south into Dana Point or Laguna Beach, and then it comes down the coast, covers the Channel Islands, which are Catalina Island, San Nicolas Island, San Clemente Island, and the small island of Santa Barbara. We share that with our sister tribe who are from the northern area, the Chumash. We go up into the Topanga area where the Malibu Creek is and cross on over in the northern area over the Santa Monica Mountains, over the San Gabriels, up to the Mojaves, or where Wrightwood's at, where the 126 is. And then we go east up into Lido Creek, down in the lower lands, up to Yucaipa. So we had a vast, large area of ancestral territory. Why the Kizh are important to California history is, like I mentioned from the beginning, we are the foundation. The history here of California, of Southern California, it begins with our history. And without our history, those that are now sharing this or these lands, these native lands with us today would not know the true history in regards to California history. So the history here in Southern California, in the LA Basin, begins with us. And without our history, you're lost. Within our tribe, we have approximately 450, 500 members who are lineal descendants of the original communities or villages of the Los Angeles Basin. And that is not just based on hearsay. Of course, us, the Native community, we know our people. We know who we are. We know who the descendants are. We know through the thousands of years up to date since we've been here, we know who we are, our community. But we go through a process of genealogical background to also, in this day and age, to have our information on black and white, on document. And we go through genealogical background through baptisms, ever since the coming of the Spanish who recorded us during the mission baptisms. We go through those baptisms and we start there like with an individual. For example, myself, I start with my birth and baptism, and then we follow the link. My father or my mother, whoever's native on that side, we follow their link and continue on with death, birth, all the certificates that substantiate our lineage to the original people here of the Los Angeles Basin. Yes, I do. There is a major risk of those individuals that have been claiming, not only us, other nations go through the same issues. It's very important because when those that are stealing identity of another is what causes the ongoing atrocities within our culture. The misrepresentation of who they are and the misrepresentation of our true culture, identity, and issues that pertain to us, matters that pertain to us. It distorts that important part of our history. So yes.
All right. And why do you think people would lie about that?
Well, to be honest with you, it's not too hard to establish a 501c3 or a nonprofit. And if you could establish a nonprofit as an organization or a tribal government, there's loopholes on how you could get away with tax exemption. You use that 501c3 for misrepresentation, representing yourself as a tribe, acting as a tribe. People start to give donations to you, millions of dollars to you, and just by falsifying their proof, or who they are. And these individuals are living and utilizing those particular, I'm just saying, for instance, the 501c3, but utilizing such resources to gain for themselves. That's basically what they do. They're out there working a lot of times with developers, on projects, on developments, and they're getting paid to be out there. It's not bad, I don't think, to pay an individual who is a lineal descendant, who's out there protecting their resources. It's important that they do. However, when you have individuals that are misrepresenting themselves and trying to strong arm developers, lead agencies, what have you, all because of money, then that's where the issue gets very, very complicated. Federal recognition has always been the goal of our community. Our elders have always wanted the federal recognition. First of all, we have state recognition. We, the Gabrielino tribe, or my people, actually our tribe, our tribal government, we established and received in 1994 state recognition, and we received that under our historic name, which was the Gabrielino Tribal Council of San Gabriel. We received that. But however, for that state recognition, there's no criteria, or what's the term I want to use again? There's no formal process. There's no formal process for state recognition. I mean, you don't get no benefit out of it or anything like that, or we throughout all these years, anyways, we have been sustaining ourselves on our own. However, in regards to federal recognition, we would like to have that federal recognition so that our stories, our history could be utilized or documented within our school programs, the true history of our people. We are able to protect more of our sacred sites on federal land that the federal government has taken over within our ancestral area. And when I say lands, I'm talking about burial sites that are discovered. We want to be able to handle our own resources, handle our own burials, on federal lands. We're big boys. I mean, we've done this for thousands and thousands of years, and we're very capable. Even today, we're capable of handling our own resources. But with federal recognition, it comes, a lot of doors begin to open for us, not only educational, not only preserving and protecting our lands, but most of all is protecting our culture. If we get federal recognition, well, to be honest with you, we've already accomplished a lot without federal recognition. We, like I mentioned earlier, we have sustained ourselves without the federal government, or without the federal government, for decades now. The office that we're in now, we started this on our own, and this office is resource offices for the protection of our tribal cultural resources within our area here, in our ancestral area. We even reach out to our sister tribes, or tribes that are in need of help protecting their resources. We're here. We're Native Americans, indigenous people, or lineal descendants of the LA Basin, and our doors are open to help any tribe that is looking for help. The first thing we would like to accomplish, and when we receive federal recognition, is the dream that my father and his grandfathers and grandmothers and all the elders have always wanted, is a cultural center. Something here in the LA Basin that we are able to tell our story. Our story has been buried for hundreds of years, ever since the coming of the settlers. And why? Because of politics and because of the beautiful natural resources within our native lands here that they are trying to protect, so that actually they're afraid that if we get federal recognition, we would take those resources back from them. But that's not our goal. However, to answer the question, it would be a cultural center. It would be a cultural center. A cultural center. However, gaining federal recognition does not all the time, and with a lot of tribes, it doesn't come with the thoughts of opening up a casino to sustain ourselves. As I mentioned earlier, we have sustained ourselves and we continue to grow. Believe it or not, the Gabrielino Kizh continue to grow here in the Los Angeles Basin. They are now agencies and schools and whatever are starting to hear more and more about us here in the LA Basin. However, tribes do not need a casino to sustain themselves. There's other avenues. We're right now working with little workshops with the help of my cousin, of course, Matthew Tutimes, who has established little educational events and getting together, bringing the community together, bringing the tribe along with the community on going to different areas of the hillsides and areas that we're trying to protect and preserve. And with that, we've been working with agencies who have helped and are helping to help us sustain ourselves, working with us. So it's not all the time. There's other avenues of sustaining yourselves, besides a casino, besides those types of what do you want to call them, establishments, or there's other avenues, the bottom line. To be honest with you, in 1995, we were for the casinos. My father campaigned here in the Los Angeles Basin for those tribes. Were here in Southern California, San Manuel, Paula, Pachanga, Saboba, all those. We campaigned here and voted to help them get casinos because we had a deal with those tribes of that now have casinos. And that deal was, we wanted to help promote them getting their casinos because they were going to return help as far as recognition, federal recognition, and they were going to help with funding and helping sustain our people here in the Los Angeles Basin. But as that generation faded away, the new generation looked the other way and thought of doing it their way, a different way. And that dream never came true.
You see the Yamava advertisements everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. And that's what I'm saying. Even here in our own, I mean, that's fine. You know, the Serrano or the San Manuel, we did share a great amount of the same area and what have you. They're our sister tribe. And what really bothers me is when you come and you drive around in our ancestral area down here in LA or down in Monterey Park or whatever, and you see signs there right in our homelands that talk about casino, that talk about, you know, to bring the people over there, to bring, and that's kind of disrespectful just to come and plant a sign in an area of someone else's or some other tribal nation's ancestral area. See, we work on protocol and respect. Tribes do, the old tribes, the old traditions do. And if I go into their area, I pick up the phone or I let anybody from their nation know that we're coming, that we're going to be there, we're going to spend the day there, or we're going to do this there. That was protocol. And vice versa, they would do the same. Today, it's not. It's all about land grabbing. This is what this new generation, this is what that they have fallen in to the system of land grabbing. And it's a shame that this is the way they work today. So not to talk bad about my brothers and sisters of you know, the sister tribes, but it's true. They'll tell you honestly, if they got any heart, they would tell you the same thing. That was tradition, and it should be tradition. It should continue on because there's a respect of our ancestral areas and our respect of ancestral. I know that a lot of the our nation or our ancestral territories are out of our hands today, and they belong to different cities and what have you. But in our hearts and in our minds, we have always been brought up to protect our original areas. And it wasn't just because of the territory, it was because of the resource of the areas that we were so protected of, that sustained our people for thousands and thousands of years. So that's why it's important that you know, when they do put signs up like this, advertisement of their particular casinos or whatever, that they reach out to the tribal governments of this area and ask permission, you know, which they don't do. So that's why. One of the main obstacles, to be honest with you, because we were that close to federal recognition in '94, and one of the main atrocities, and today it's a genocide on our nation, and it's that term and those individuals who claim Tongva. That is the main obstacle that has prevented us from moving forward. Individuals who do not have the bloodline and individuals who are out publicly claiming they are the bloodline. And to the government, this is what they call a splinter group. But we've already put our documents in order to prove that we're not a splinter group, that those individuals who claim that term Tongva are not who they are. So our obstacle today, to answer your question, and our atrocity today is the term Tongva and those individuals who represent that term. Remember, it's a term, not a tribe, not a people. It's a term. We were the actual tribe who were that hyphen group or that slash group that they call. Remember, we're a tribal government. We're not considered a group. We're a tribal government. However, now you read in Wikipedia and what have you, various other groups. Well, I could tell you right now, those other groups are not who they are, except that one group who are the Kizh Nation Gabrielino Band of Mission Indians. Me, along with my tribe and our members, are the lineal descendants of the Los Angeles Basin. All the others have been misrepresenting themselves and have been proclaiming, almost same thing, they've been proclaiming our culture, our history, what have you. So in 1994, the reason why you see the slash or the hyphen between the Gabrielino and Tongva is because that's the name that was planted on us, our direct tribe. You never heard of those other groups that you see on Wikipedia? There was no such thing. There was one group here in San Gabriel, and that was our group. So in 1994, a good gentleman by the name of John Shaughnessy, who lived in Santa Monica, came over to our tribe here in San Gabriel during our meetings and asked if we could help them. His organization, which was the West Los Angeles Community Organization, to protect and preserve a natural spring that was over at Santa Monica Uni High School off of Barrington in Santa Monica, that was going to be destroyed because of some apartments or a little plaza they were going to build there. And my father at the time was kind of the youngest of the elders and really pumped up. He was a go-getter, my father. And he got involved, and he spoke with John, and they began to work together. My father started taking the tribe over there and showing the area, giving the history, because the area location was on a village community or within a village community called Curavungna, which is in Santa Monica, California. And my father actually fought with our tribal members to protect and preserve that site with the help of the organization. But at the same time, there was a group of individuals along with a professor who came out of the woodworks there. The individuals that came out, they lived close by and attended that school in their early years. They were already in their 30s and 40s, but they attended school, grammar school or high school during their younger years, and they wanted to see the site preserved, so they started to get involved, and they wanted to help my father and the community or the organization. During that time, they brought a professor from Long Beach State, and I'm going to say her name, who got involved. And she got involved because we were also at the same time with my aunts, my cousins, preserving and protecting a burial site over in Long Beach State, over in Pavungna. The burial, my aunts and them were the ones that conducted the burial, the actual burial that everybody talks about. Were that tribe, were that people that reinterred those remains at Long Beach State back in the early 90s over in that area. However, came on over and wanted to help our tribe. She wanted to get involved in preserving this area, and it seemed like a good thing. All of us, the tribe, get a lot of people are wanting to help us. It seemed like a good thing. And we had them help us. And as we moved forward, finally the state, the federal, the school, the LAUSD and the city, they came up to my father and said, Ernie, it looks like you protected this site. We're going to present you with a symbolic key of preserving and protecting this site. And you're welcome to have this site for $1 a year, whatever you want to do. If you want to put a cultural center, whatever. And that was the dream of my father. That was, this is where the doors were opening. And at the same time, our recognition was coming about, our federal recognition, because we already had received our state recognition. So, or we were on the process of the state recognition. So, but everything was coming together. And it was just on at that very location at the Springs where came up to us. And now today, we find out 26 years later, well, not 10, 20, during the 26 years, we knew that they wanted to plant this particular term, Tongva, on naming the springs there, on naming the Springs Foundation there, Tongva Springs Foundation. They want to name it because they already had somewhat of an agenda. And that agenda was to hijack this tribe, our tribe, and run off with our identity, our history, our culture, everything that was needed so that they were able to establish, like we mentioned earlier, a 501c3 to get funding, to exactly what they're doing today. They're using the system to sustain themselves as far as, not lineal descendants, but they're just using the system to gain for themselves. So anyways, they named the spring, she did, because that name Tongva, she introduced it to our tribes, and I have the document, so I'm going to show it to you. She introduced that name Tongva to our tribe, and our tribe and everybody didn't want the tribe. But please note that at that time, our members, my father even, nobody knew about cell phones, nobody knew about computers, they were just coming out. Nobody knew about, they weren't involved in academia. So what they didn't want over here, academia was able to push through the system. She was a school professor. So what she did was go around us, contact LAUSD, said the tribe wants to name themselves this name Tongva, and from that point on, that stood. We fought from that point on, trying to preserve our original name, or our historic name, which is Gabrielino, still utilizing our native name, which we called ourselves Kizh people, or Quecherinos, as the Spanish called us, people of the willow houses. However, at that time, we kind of basically just used Gabrielino, but we were trying to preserve our identity and everything. And meanwhile, why these group of individuals that came in to help stole our identity and ran off with it and started to feed the minds of the children at the colleges that were paying for Indian studies or whatever studies that they were taking up classes there in regards to the culture, the history of the LA Basin. Their parents were paying to have their students there or their children there to learn lies from this one individual. So through the academia, and today it's still going on, through academia, this name Tongva has spread like cancer. And those individuals that have tried in the past to protect it, the elders are gone now. So now I continue their legacy. It's my job, along with my cousin, along with my family, along with my tribal members, to protect our identity and tell the truth of truly who we are. But the name Tongva, the slash later, as you mentioned earlier, that's how the slash came about. When you see the Gabrielino slash or hyphen Tongva, it means that the Gabrielino worked together with the Tongva Foundation, not the Tongva tribe. They were a foundation that was earlier called West LA Community. And matter of fact, the good man John Shaughnessy, he was overtaken by those same individuals, and they took over his organization, which was the West LA Community Organization, and they changed it to the Tongva Foundation. So when you see that little slash, that's what that means. And I have those minutes and those documents where it states there, the Tongva are not associated or not, what does it read? They're not, I have the document, something that, I gotta go back to the records, but it states there that they're not part of the tribe. They're a foundation. So that's where everybody has been confused. And that name was, we utilized it for a short time until we started saying, hey, we're utilizing this name, but by us utilizing, we're only promoting those frauds over there. So we corrected that. We removed that. Our 501c3, our direct 501c3 was stolen. My dad was the incorporator in 1994. We got that stolen. We got everything stolen from us once again. In 94, we experienced another atrocity. You know, from the beginning of our history, the Spanish, the Mexican government, the American government has arrived here and has taken just about everything from us. And in 94, these group of individuals are our modern day conquistors that have conquested upon us and stole from us also. So I wanted for the record that we document a subject that we just spoke about in regards to the term Tongva. The term Tongva was never a tribe. There's no such thing as a hyphen group, Tongva, / group, Tongva. There's no such thing as a tribe, period, called Tongva within the Los Angeles Basin. This, you could all look up for yourselves if you research it. There has never been a tribe called Tongva. This term or name was utilized to name a foundation that our tribe protected and preserved in 1994 over at the Uni Springs site in over off of Barrington in Santa Monica. My dad saved the site. My dad wanted to name the site, along with our tribal members and elders, Curavungna, the community that was there. However, because of a professor, academia, and individuals, non-Indians, who got involved, they went ahead and named that site Tongva Springs Foundation. Again, those individuals who were part of that foundation later took off the foundation name and started utilizing that term and established themselves as a tribe of the Los Angeles Basin. So just that there's no confusion, there was no such thing as a Tongva, Gabrielino, Kizh, 3 different tribes in the LA Basin. There was only one tribe here in the Los Angeles Basin within our ancestral area, and they were originally the Kizh people of the Willow, who later became known through the Spanish as the Gabrielino because of the name of, or the establishment of, the San Gabriel Mission. That's it. The Tongva, there was no such thing. So those of you who are receiving or getting this information by individuals, you're only being misled, and I hate to say that you're following a dark path. You're not going to get what you want or any particular good information from the original indigenous people of the Los Angeles Basin. So if you would like to know more about our history, our culture, you go ahead and contact our office or myself. We are the Kizh Nation Gabrielino Band of Mission Indians. But I do want to say one more statement. Just so everybody's aware, the name Tongva was recorded in 1903. It was picked up in 1994 by those fraudulent groups who now established themselves and call themselves Tongva. And they actually did that to us in 1994. It was planted on us directly. We're the living descendants who are the children of the grandparent or grandchildren of those individuals that were infiltrated on. So in regards to the word Tongva, it was recorded, but it was recorded because it was what would I say? It was abbreviated. In 1903, Miriam C. Hart, who was originally a biologist here in Berkeley, was called upon by the family of Berkeley to study the local natives of Southern California. And the local natives that they wanted him to do research on were my people, the Gabrielino, the Kizh people. So he was getting paid for his research for his research on our people. So he set out and started out on his journey on recording the local indigenous people of the Los Angeles Basin. So Miriam C. Hart set out to research the local natives or indigenous people or those descendants in 1903 that still lived around the original ancestral areas of the Gabrielino. And he came to the San Gabriel Mission back in 1903. And he asked the mission if he knew where some of the natives lived, and he was able to interview. So there was some, like my cousins, that lived around the areas there, close to the park across the street from the San Gabriel Mission called Smith Park today, that lived there. They kind of ignored him because, you know, our people didn't become citizens until 1926 here in California. So we were very low incognito. We didn't want to put ourselves out there, or we didn't want to give really any of our information pertaining to if we were natives, because there was still bounties out on our heads at that time that we were trying to protect, and of course protect our children from getting in, you know, in harm's way or being punished for who they were or who my families were. So he did come and knock on some of the doors, and a lot of my cousins and grandmothers, and because I can remember, you know, the stories, our oral history, they said, oh yeah, there used to be men coming all the way back when, and coming knocking on the doors wanting to know our history, but we just stood away from those people because of our past. So they came and he went into San Gabriel, and he even came into the little barrio, the little barrio as we call it today, where I grew up in Old San Gabriel, in between Del Mar, in between Las Tunas and Mission Road, and San Gabriel and Del Mar. It's right over by the old mission. That's where a lot of the historic families later resided. And I'm talking, they're still there. A lot of the areas like, you know, like Henniger Flats, the Hennigers there, the De La Osas are there, the Perez Nietos, who we descend, are there. A lot of the old Valenzuelas, a lot of the old Spanish soldier, the families, they're still there. And the local natives are still there. We're still there. We live today and have lived for many years on Old Main Street, right across the street from the old trade route, the railroad. We're still there today. But he came into the area there and wanted to record, and didn't find anybody there either. So he went back to the mission, and the mission directed him on over to another location, which is over at Fort Tejon, which we call Ridge Route. A lot of our people or grandmothers called that area Ridge Route. We used to go as kids with my grandmother and them to go visit families who stood residing near there by Bakersfield and what have you, that stood around the area and continued to live there today. We used to go visit them. But he went on over there in 1903, and he interviewed and researched a woman by the name of Rosemary Narcisa Higuera, and she asked, you know, if she knew anybody that on the reservation or the Tejon area, if they were Gabrielino and what have you. And she said, well, honestly, I live over there. I was born over there, and I descend from there, but I was brought over here in my early days with my family, and I descend from the area of San Gabriel, because the San Gabriel Mission was not only a Spanish church, it was also a hospital, it was also a hotel, it was kind of a bread and breakfast area later, where drifters would follow that old Camino Real, and they'd stay there, eat, sleep, and even get hospitalized sometimes there, and move on to the next mission, or up in Northern California, or back down south. That was life back then, and that's how they utilized those missions at that time. But she was recorded, and also Jesus Haro was recorded, and they were both asked. Not at Fort Tejon. Jesus Haro was not recorded at Fort Tejon. He was interviewed over in the San Gabriel area, and they asked where they were from or where they were born, and they replied and mentioned that they were of the village in San Gabriel, where the mission was at, or is at, and that village site or community was called Tovascana. But because Miriam C. Hart could not pronounce it, he abbreviated Taumva. Later on, Mr. Hart passed away in 1945. All his notes, all the information that he gathered were never published until 1965, when a group of students there at Berkeley gathered, went through the notes, and published them. And from that point on, in 1994, these individuals that were supposedly helping us protect and preserve that site in Santa Monica were actually against us. They were stealing our history, stealing our culture. They had an agenda. They planted the name Tongva at this particular site location. And from that point on, that term, that name has spread like cancer. I have more information. I have more documentation to prove exactly of what I'm telling all. And if you're very welcome, you look me up, you're welcome to see it. You're welcome to sit with me. I could guide you through the documents and give you a better understanding. But please note, spread the word. Help us today protect our culture, protect our identity, and most of all, our history. Please let everybody know there was no such tribe called Tongva. Thank you. So in regards to social media, to be honest with you, as I mentioned, there's a lot of old timers within our tribe. There's a lot of children too within our tribe. But us, the elders, I'm an elder now. I'm following my father and my grandmothers and grandfathers. I'm an elder now. I'm not too hip myself in social media, but we do have our children that are starting to publicize or put that out for us. And with your great help in recording this particular day here, we thank you, because you're going to be able to help put the truth out there. But our main goal is to tell the truth, tell our history the way it truly is. You know, not myths, not misrepresentation. We want the truth. That's our goal. The Kizh, our main goal is to preserve our history, our culture, our identity, so that everyone, not only our children, but those that want to know about us, they could understand about us and who we truly are. So that's our main goal right now, is preserving our history and getting the word out on the truth of who the indigenous people truly are of the Los Angeles Basin. Our goal is, for the next decade, is continue the legacy of our ancestors, both the present and those of the past, the deceased. And their main goal was the preservation of their true history. That's the goal. There's the only thing you could gain out of this is preserving your culture, your history. It needs to be known. So many years, when I was a young boy going to school here, they never talked about us. Nobody even mentioned us. Nobody, even today, you talk about us and people are like, what? You know, there was Indians there. Our main goal is to get that truth out, because you, like many others, and I'm seeing it, sharing this part of our culture and part of our history to those that want to know it, it opens up their minds. It gives them a better understanding of where they're at and where they're living. Without that history being told, the indigenous history, that's a part of the puzzle that's missing. And if you put that part back and include it in that puzzle, you got a, I want to say, what was the term I would use? You would, it gives you a better understanding of where you're at in regards to the background history, because the indigenous history is an important part of California. We can't neglect it because, as I mentioned earlier, it's the beginning. That was the beginning, the indigenous. We understand before us there was animals and everything else. We understand that. However, human life begins with us, our people here in California, descendants from here, from actual villages from here. Let us help tell that history. And you can only get that through us, the indigenous people, the original people, the descendants.